Okay, good. Like, is we still have a few things to go through first anyway, right? So I guess we'll call this meeting to order on Wednesday, September 3rd at 4:02. Right, great. We do have a quorum. Any adoptions to the agenda? No? Sure.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Anyone second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Do we have any visitors? Communication? Nope. Great. Moving right along, approval of minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion to?
There are none.
There are no minutes. I
Yes, we
approve
did.
no minutes.
All right, but then I approve those. I can't.
Asa, what was that?
I was.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, sorry.
Just curious.
Okay, right on to the Northwest Park Master Plan Exhibit A presentation then.
From the city. We're here today to give you a presentation on progress on the Northwest Park Master Plan. We have 3 different options to propose to you to get your feedback today. So just back out a little bit, give a little bit of background. This was a council goal several years ago to study kind of the feasibility of a multi-use facility on the site. The site was a piece of ground that was then deeded to the city 5 or 6 years ago as part of the Woodlands Master Plan. And the intent of the city was to do some studies on what we could do on that parcel with a focus on trying to make it some facility that would be attractive to both residents and to tourists. I hope that maybe we would start to get something that would attract visitors during the winter season, but also be a facility that's for locals as well. So one of the goals to conduct a feasibility study. The second goal this year was to actually adopt the plan, develop a funding and phasing plan and start. So staff put out a request for proposals for landscape architects to help us out with the study the project, and we had good response, and we ended up hiring NV5 ordinary to help us out with this. So one of the first steps in the process was to do some outreach to the community. We held an open house back in the early part of the summer. We also did some stakeholder interviews. And we felt that the feedback that we got at that point was great, but maybe not as comprehensive as we wanted it to be. So we put out a survey to the community to get to kind of gauge what the average citizen's thoughts were. We got it says over 400 with the staff report. I look back, actually got over 580 responses to that survey. So we felt the feedback that we had received is pretty comprehensive and pretty solid. Solid grounds to go forward. And so NV5 took all that feedback and created 3 different options. We asked them to create 3 options with varying degrees of density, starting with a kind of a full-fledged range. I strengthened kind of a centerpiece with something kind of in the middle ground, and then something that is still provides that kind of ice rink amenity, but is much smaller. That also has additional amenities that we heard from the community surveys that people wanted. So what we have tonight is today is you're looking for your feedback that we can pass on to city council, and then also share with the community, and that will all be taken into account, and final kind of a preferred plan will be brought back later in the year that will hopefully be kind of the best case scenario for the project. So John Champlin, that's close. Here, with MB5, he's gonna lead you through a presentation.
Scott. Okay. Evening. Share my screen. Through. Okay, there, okay, great, thanks for your patience. Just a minute to get set up. All right. Thank you all. As Scott mentioned, my name is John Champlin. I'm a landscape architect with NV5. We're an engineering and planning, also surveying, landscape architecture company based out of Wilsonville. So it's really an honor to be a part of this project. For me, especially, I love parks. It's a really exciting one for me to be a part of, and thank you for the opportunity. As Scott mentioned, we're really looking for your feedback today. The alternatives are all three intentionally different designs to gather feedback and essentially kind of allow some design themes to come forward, and then ultimately land on a preferred design. So that's the goal. Our agenda this evening, we're going to look at the existing conditions of the site. I imagine you're all fairly familiar with it. And then our site analysis that we put together. We'll quickly walk through the public engagement process and the feedback that we received there. Then we'll dig through the three design alternatives. And lastly, we'll review the project schedule and our next steps. So starting off with site analysis, the first thing we notice about the site is its location. It's right there at the entrance into town on Highway 20 at the roundabout, along Barclay Drive, on the north side, and of course the highway on the west side. It's a relatively flat site, very mature ponderosa pines and junipers are present. It's about a 2.8 acre site. So it's a good size. It's also got very nice proximity to a mix of uses. So single family residential in the Woodlands neighborhood, just to the east and southeast. We're abutting commercial zoning along Barclay and along the highway. Our understanding is that there's a future potential food truck pod proposed for the parcel along Barclay, and then it would be a mixed use residential, commercial, and retail along the highway. So very dynamic land use adjacent to us. One thing that we think is important is to create some sort of buffer, so you can see that. Yeah. Along the single family residential, we think that that's important. Also, access will come off of Canopy Way and Old Grove Way. We have to bring access off of the lesser, assigned street category, so we won't be coming off of the highway or off Barclay, and I really don't think we would want to because of the proximity to the but we do have good pedestrian access from both of those right-of-ways along the highway and Barclay, as well as the future Old Growth Way and Canopy Way. There's a double sidewalk on both sides of Canopy Way, so great pedestrian access. So quickly, looking at the public engagement process, we started kind of small and we went bigger. The first step was stakeholder interviews, so that was a group of community stakeholder groups across two meetings, and those were done in April. Some of the feedback that we received there was that the focus of the park should be multi-purpose. It shouldn't be just a singular use. The stakeholders also wanted to see something new and different, something that doesn't currently exist in Sisters, which we really like that idea. The idea of a gateway experience came forward in those meetings just because of the location. And then also uses that are focused on all ages, but specifically teens. The stakeholders felt that teens were a little underserved in terms of parking. From there, we did a public open house. We did not present any idea or design layouts in that open house. It was really just to gather ideas. We wanted to get feedback from the community before we really put pen to paper on bringing forth any designs. There were approximately about 30 community members that attended. And the responses from the community were that they would like the park to have a variety of uses, which is fine, the stakeholder reviews. The people that attended also liked the idea of enhancing the natural aesthetic of the site, mature trees. And then something that would be, not super heavy on the site, something that would have a little bit more of a lighter touch. From there, we went to the public survey. We had a very large group of respondents. And we focused on two questions. What does the community want to see inside of a pavilion? And what do they want to see outside the pavilion? So first, inside the pavilion, the #1 response was a seasonal ice rink. Number 2, an event or gathering space. From there, sport courts and a seasonal roller rink. Outside the pavilion, the #1 response by far was a natural playscape, and then an event lawn, picnic area, bouldering got a large response, sport courts, lawn sports, and interpretive signage in that order. So finally, as a result of that public engagement and feedback, working with city staff, 3 general concepts came to the forefront, and those were recreate, congregate, and interpret. And so we really developed 3 design alternatives that were centered around those 3 ideas. You're going to see some overlap in a lot of the, the designs, but in general, those were the 3 themes that drove each design. So jumping into option A, this is the design that we developed with the idea of recreate. So this design really is all about a sports facility. So here we have a pavilion that could be open air, but it could also be closed off and conditioned when needed. The open air portion would be 27,500 square feet. So quite large. We're showing a variety of sport courts laid out here. We would like your feedback on, what you feel is most appropriate for courts that would go in here. But just to get an idea of size, that the top 2 courts are basketball. The one on the top is overlaid with 3 pickleball courts. The lower one is overlaid with a volleyball court, and then there are 2 full-size tennis courts bottom. Keynote F would be a year-round climbing wall that would have interchangeable handholds. So, could be 12 months of the year climbing wall improvement there. The Keynote D would be kind of your back of house systems condition coolers, to, keep the ice frozen, that sort of thing, HVAC. And then keynote E would be your building restrooms, would have, concessions, skate rentals, offices, those sorts of things on, keynote E. Outside of the facility, we located a natural playscape, that would be, intermixed with existing trees, so something that would commingle with that natural aesthetic of the site that's there, so trying to keep as many of the existing trees as we could. This concept has a drop-off, a vehicular drop-off lane, which we feel would be important for a facility of this size, because the parking lot will have 56 standard spaces and 4 ADA, so 60 parking stalls, and you would likely need more for a facility of this size. So, having a drop off there we go was important. Keynote J finally would just be kind of a passive landscape area. We don't foresee that as an irrigated lawn, but something that could be mowed. Allow people to, have an informal picnic or throw a frisbee, but would actually act as a bit of a buffer to that residential. I failed to mention that would be the summer and shoulder season. So, looking at this design concept with a winter program, this would have a full-size hockey rink, a 200-foot by 85-foot ice rink, and would be, up to the city to determine the season on that, but thinking, maybe November through March, April, potentially, for that hockey facility. That could also act as a roller rink in the summer season. So we didn't want to overlay that with the other sport courts. It got a little busy, but just to keep that in mind, it could be a roller rink facility as well. One thing to mention, the back of house and maintenance access, garbage pickup, that sort of thing would be very simple to be accessed off of the full park. Wanted to give an idea of just some character imagery as to what this facility could look like. The new ranger station going in is kind of, I feel like it's a nice aesthetic. It's very suitable for the community. Something that would be timber framed, blue laminated wood, those sorts of things, but could be a feature in and of itself. We like that idea. And then, of course, setting up for the summer sports, climbing wall, the nature playground, really just thinking about natural materials, no plastic, no metal. Wood would be ideal, and rock, and potentially even some ropes attached to existing trees could be a really cool thing. And then just again, passive lawn space. So that is option A, recreate. Moving forward, option B, the design team that drove this concept is congregate. The community felt like having space for congregating and gathering events was just an idea that came forward in the outreach. So the facility itself is a similar size, but we located it in a way to keep as many of the existing trees as possible, just trying to respond to that actual aesthetic of the site that's existing. The open air portion would be just smaller at 26,500 square feet, but could hold just as many sport courts. It would all just kind of be determined by the layout. But here we've got a basketball court overlaid with 3 pickleball. There's a full-size tennis court and 2 volleyball courts. One thing we'd have to look at, any racket sports, pickleball, tennis, we'd have to set up some netting or something just for balls. But we, it would ultimately come down to what sports go into the facility is how that would all work out. The keynote D would be again, your back of house. So, facility systems, HVAC, storage, maintenance. Keynote E would be a small concessions, nothing big, and restrooms. But one distinct difference, keynote C would be a permanent stage. So thinking about events that could happen, concerts, large gatherings, even, big family reunions, just having a stage there. And we thought that kind of west and northwest wall of the facility, we could do something a little bit more permanent that could act as a buffer to that street noise and kind of amplify, just, direct the stage back into the facility as opposed to being over here in that place. Outside the facility, we have 2 sport courts. So we're showing a full-size basketball and full-size tennis court. Adjacent to that, we have a major a natural skate playground. And then keynote I, we like this idea of bouldering, but themed around the idea of the Three Sisters bouldering. So 3 kind of distinct different bouldering areas gathered together and really just speaking to what you have here. Adjacent to that, sand volleyball pit. And then up to the north, trying to capitalize on this food truck development that's going in. We have outdoor dining area, so that would be some shade sails that would be nice in the year round, just to provide shade for people to sit and picnic, but also some picnic tables out on a lawn where people could come out, even throw a blanket out on the lawn, slack lining, that sort of thing, and the existing trees. The parking lot on this concept is 41 stalls, so a little smaller than the other, but we feel it is sized appropriately for this option. Thinking about events, having the drop off would be nice, but we just wanted to show a variety there. So in the winter, we could have a ice rink, a hockey rink. This would not be, a full regulation size at 200 feet long. This would be 180 feet long, but the width is the same, 85 feet. So it could still house hockey games, but a little bit smaller. And then some character imagery as to what this facility could look like and become. Shade sail, dining area, picnic lawn, outdoor sport courts, and volleyball, natural playground, and then this Three Sisters bouldering zone. One thing that we would want the bouldering zone to be is usable for all ages. So thinking about even young kids, something on the image to the right, something that young kids could use. Maybe one of the bouldering areas is for younger kids all the way up to advanced. Okay, lastly, jumping to option C, the design team that drove this concept is this idea of interpretive. So a lot of people in the community voiced that they want to be able to come and experience a place, have some idea of what maybe was there in the past, thinking historical, what was there, naturally, what the natural environment was like before the property was developed. So we did, of course, continue to bring forward a facility or a pavilion that would again be seasonal, could be closed off when it needs to be in conditioned space. But obviously, as you can see, it would be quite a bit smaller. So this one would be 16,000 square feet. We show in the top a basketball court overlaid with volleyball. In the bottom would be a tennis court overlaid with 3 pickleball. So in all three of the concepts, you're seeing a theme of, you know, multi-purpose, multi-use, interchangeable, multi-season. That's overlaid in all of these. The keynote C would be skate rentals, backup house, facility, HVAC, storage, that sort of thing, but no restrooms in that keynote C. We would actually locate restrooms at a second building, so that would be keynote D. And in that concept, or in this concept, there would be a overhead structure that could act as a picnic shelter, but also could be cleared out for events to potentially be an event stage of some sort. But primarily the use would be a picnic shelter. Anchoring the center of the site would be a large event lawn. We really like the idea of keeping those existing trees in that lawn. So, you know, mulching around the bottom, but just trying to preserve as much of that natural aesthetic as possible. In this concept, we want to introduce the idea of a kind of still natural playscape, but themed. And so the idea that came forward was to actually design that around the proposed fire lookout tower. Something that could be accessible not just for kids, but for adults. Could be accessed, and you know, you get up and you get a very unique vantage point of the community. And we located it intentionally amongst some trees. So, you know, very, very kind of unique experience, and definitely something that kids are going to love to drag their parents to. Surrounding that, we would have continue that idea of a naturescape, but something that would be built into that fire lookout tower. So, you know, potentially additional platforms, that sort of thing. Of course, natural materials. Adjacent to that and kind of knit together would be that same Three Sisters bouldering concept. So it would really just become one kind of node for play and recreation and adventure, really. Surrounding that, keynote J would be an interpretive nature walk experience. So that would be something that could also continue on the far side of the site as well. But just this idea of, you know, locating some interpretive signage. We also did here at the open house that people would like just a place to come and sit, you know, have some benches and enjoy the space. And so that's what that would be, a place for people to walk and kind of contemplate. On the north, we are proposing a couple of bocce pits, and then kind of a designated, just kind of passive area there with a couple of picnic tables, you know, to help activate that zone. Of the three concepts, this is the smallest parking lot, and it's the only one that does not have access off of Canopy Way, so it would only come off of Old Grove Way, and that would be a 29 stall parking lot there. I should mention though that although we don't have vehicular access, we do still have pedestrian access off of Canopy Way. One thing that, you know, we would interweave, and kind of hard to see at the scale, but you know, right here, and then down right here. Those would be bike parking stalls. those are included in all three concepts. We did hear, quite a bit of feedback that people wanted bike facilities at the park. So wintertime, this would not have a hockey rink, but it would have a seasonal ice rink. The one you're looking at, the size of that canopy is 120 feet by 90 feet. To give you a little bit of context, the one in Sun River at the village is roughly about 100 by 60. So we're bigger than that, but not big enough for, organized ice sports. So would certainly be a draw for the community to come and enjoy ice skating. So finally thinking about some character imagery, just a informal ice skating rink, seasonal, and then of course sports courts, the bocce. This would be kind of a bit of an inspiration for the picnic shelter that could be cleared, picnic tables could be cleared out and opened up for events. That lawn space could really become something of an event space as well. Interpretive signage along that interpretive walk. Martin actually shared this picture with me. That was the fire watch tower that's it sounds like right on Main Street or adjacent to it. Way back when here in Sister. Yeah, it was, yeah. So then, thinking about a new fire watch tower, something that could be integrated into some naturescape playground with additional logs and platforms, and then again the idea of a bouldering. So, in closing, in terms of the designs, again we have the three options. Kind of went from biggest facility down to the smallest facility. Option A, recreate. Option B, congregate, and option C, interpret. So I think before we jump to next steps, I think it'd be a good time to gather some feedback.
Anyone want to go first?
I'll go first. First of all, I want to thank you very much for putting all this together. I think the content was right to point and just very clear of three different options. So thank you very much for all the work. I kind of just came up with some notes on each one. Maybe I'll just throw my notes on each one out and then we can just maybe go along there, let everybody. The first one, recreate, that came to mind on that was it looked very program intensive as far as, the city might need to get 2 or 3 people working 7 days a week to make that happen. So that was just a note on that. The overflow parking was a concern because if you are having it more of a recreate place when there's a ton of people there with 60 parking lots, I think you said, where are they going to overflow to? So that was a question. I don't care about where the playground is located up in the north by that busy highway. The other options had a little bit better options with the playground. I do like the buffer space on that. And I don't know if you're looking at that being a berm there or flat, but I like that potential of a berm to where people that are in the event area don't see the housing behind them. So that has more potential than the other two options. Moving on to the second one, congregate. The stage location. I mean, I've been around in the Parks and Recreation business for 30 years, and when it comes to stages and events like that, there's so much going on behind the scenes, behind the stage, that you need so much support. It just seems like there's very little space for that to happen in that option.
What'd you do, Carol?
That's okay.
There we go. Okay, so, the stage, I think, John, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but up in the left corner, that was where the stage was in the congregate?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, just seemed like it just very restricted space
Mm-hmm.
for events versus the next option there. The playground was in a lot better location. I like that in a more central area and away from the streets. But the buffer area just seemed a little questionable how much that's really gonna buffer from the housing. The third one on C, interpret, I really like the nature, the theme nature play idea that you threw out. I love the location of the playground. The stage seems really appropriate for events for people on the lawn and also undercover in the shade, maybe if it's busy in the summer. So there's just a ton of, and just so much behind the stage that facilitates those types of events. Again, the buffer was a little questionable, whether there's the buffer, but it's a little better than option 2 there. Bocce courts, I mean, over in Clear Pine, we've had bocce courts over there. I rarely see anybody playing. So I just question whether that's a good use of that space.
Yeah.
And then the ice machines, you'd mentioned there's no restrooms in the option where the court is. So would that facilitate the machinery to make the ice and the coolers and all that?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yes, it would just be, that right there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be the cooling machines, ventilation, maintenance,
Yeah.
storage, and, you know, just a small kind of counter for skate rentals.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, overall, I guess I mean, I kind of lean toward option C as far as it just seems more of a fit for that area for sisters. This is just my personal opinion. And the other ones seem great. They seem a little maybe grandiose for that small of a space. That's all I have.
Great feedback there, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gonna go around?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I can tell a lot of work went into these. I think, the recre idea, I like it because we can have a lot of concentrated activity there, but half of the space would be a parking lot. And to me, removing mature ponderosa pines for parking just feels like maybe a step in the wrong direction. The congregate, I really like this one because I feel like this one gives us a lot of things that we don't currently have in the community. I don't believe, unless the new SPRD space has sand volleyball courts. I used to play, I don't anymore, but that's something I don't think we have in the community. You know, and I think the congregate option gives you an ice rink where you could play a game of hockey, which I think is what people are really looking for from what I understand. I worry that that one is trying to do a little too much with the stage in the pavilion. Like, is that really gonna be, we have a lot of places for stages in Sisters, and I don't know if it would really get used, but I like, you know, the outdoor basketball too. Like, I can envision people, you know, playing pickup games out there, and that'd be super fun. I really like the idea of the Three Sisters bouldering. I think that's a really cool concept. And then the interpret option, I also like that one. I worry that we're sort of losing the community request for the ice rink if you can't play hockey there. Now, I don't know anything about hockey, so I don't know if you could like shoot a puck around in that space in the winter or not. But I feel like the interpret concept brings in a lot of things we already have in the community, like lawn space and a stage and, you know, nature paths. We're just putting in a nature path over by the elementary school to the middle school right now that Sisters Trail Alliance is really doing a lot of work on, and the school faculty themselves. So it kind of feels, interpret kind of feels like it might have a little more overlap to what we already have in the community. Although I do like the co-localization of everything together there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I guess without just retreading everything, I guess I'd echo the sentiments just expressed about both being excited about the plans that are biting off as much as I'd like to chew, but then kind of wondering about the trade-offs of, kind of the sort of redundancy and infrastructure that we already have a lot of. I'm a teacher, and last year I was in the middle school and asked my students when I was first got on the Parks Board, was like, "What do you guys want?" They had a very long list, including a playground, but for big kids, talking about the Village Green one. And I was, "What do you mean?" And it sounded like kind of this. They said parkour, but but this kind of like bouldering, like hybrid setup sounds kind of like what some of them might be looking for. Um, we have a huge shortage of just general purpose sports courts, and I understand the pickleball lobby is strong here, and I think that's well represented, if not overrepresented. So I think that's helpful to overlay those for scale. But I think seeing like in option B, a couple pickleball courts literally at odds with other courts, I can kind of envision the teens and kids who don't have spaces to play anything in the winter, other than the school gyms, which are not always available because they're reserved for team practices mostly. I can just see, and maybe I'm a little cynical, but I don't think they'll win the competition for the scarce resource over the winter if that is not an ice rink at the time, or even just when they want court time. So that's not really maybe on the design side so much, but as the city moves forward with any of these plans, just to think about how to maintain the access if we really do want, like kids and families to be able to use some of these spaces. Yeah, so I like the idea of B kind of also bringing in some of those outdoor courts and spaces that there could see some use in shoulder season and winter, especially as get less snow. It might be usable more of the year. So that might be a nice alternative too, if there is like a rink set up in that indoor space over winter.
Thank you.
Thanks for all this work. This is great. Three really different concepts. For me, my opinion's kind of still the same a little bit. Because I'm coming from a standpoint of there's no reason for anyone to come to Sisters in the winter. And a half sheet of ice would never hold a tournament. A full sheet, you could have tournaments of 8 teams. That's 180 people that would be staying here in the middle of the winter. That said, this survey was done to the residents and not to tourism. So, I mean, it's kind of I'm kind of torn on that concept. And for me, I mean, I of course want a full sheet of ice. If we didn't do a full sheet, I feel like we're putting all our eggs in the wrong basket going with plan B. And so then I would be more on board with plan C is where my head is. Also, my opinion hasn't changed that this isn't the best spot for an ice rink just because of the size of the property. It just doesn't seem to fit. That's what's killing me. I also don't know if, I mean, with an open pavilion, there's noise coming in from a highway and there's noise going out. And I'm looking at the survey, and the two biggest things are an ice rink and event space. And you couldn't really hold events next to the highway. I mean, and that's nothing to the concept of the plans. That's the restriction of where the location is and the size of the space. So I don't know. I'm really torn on this. But anyway, I mean, nice designs. Yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, it's great feedback, and thinking about a hockey tournament, 8 teams, that's going to draw a lot of views. And so, there would absolutely need to be some sort of off-site parking, with, working with that drop off.
Well, if we're bringing people in from out of town, I bet you that Best Western wouldn't mind letting people walk across the street there.
Senator, the Forest Service. There's lots of parking.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Yeah, and the new Gateway Park where there's supposed to be a crosswalk as well. So I think there's options, and we are still a small town. I mean, the amount of draw, I mean, it isn't just, I had a whole list of people that would use it. If we had hosted a tournament with Bend, you could have multi-sheets of ice used. The Bend rink had collegiate games where they sold tickets for a ridiculous amount of money. You have curling teams. The sister school district would probably at least get a hockey club going. I mean, to me, there's so many uses, but not at a full sheet. We miss the ticket. That's really my take.
Thank you.
Well, what a comment to follow. Thank you, John. This is really exciting to be a part of. So I had a few thoughts. For option A, I actually felt like that would probably be the easiest to maintain because it's all in one location. There's not multiple areas that need to be tended to. So I thought from a city maintenance perspective, that might be actually the most efficient. That's my perspective. For that option, I was curious if that playground was up there in that corner, would there be the ability to put some sort of guard around for the children to not run toward the street?
I should have mentioned, you know, we were a little concerned actually with that location, but felt, you know, playgrounds, you want a lot of eyes on them. That would really be the entrance into the building, that zone drop off. So we would want that pedestrian connection over to Barclay, to the Barclay right of way, to be a gated connection with absolute security fencing along Barclay.
Okay,
With that playground,
great.
for sure.
Something I really like about option A is it seems to me that if we needed to get emergency vehicles in there, which might be something that would need to happen if we have an ice rink or sports activities happening in any of the options, that seems like the most easy to access. And I have concerns specifically about option C because of that. If an ambulance needed to come in for someone who got injured on the ice or in the sports, that seems really challenging. So that's something that I think of for option A. Can you tell I'm the anxious one on the board?
Thank you.
Yeah.
For option B, I was kind of surprised by sand volleyball because it doesn't pop to mind, but then of course I immediately thought of a lot of people that would love to play. And my question is, did that come up at all in the stakeholder interviews, or was it something that you just thought to include?
It didn't necessarily come up, but we did, in the public survey ask, you know, if you want outdoor courts, what kind?
Yeah.
And there were some respondents that said volleyball.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember if anyone specifically said sand volleyball, but certainly volleyball.
Yeah, I think in terms of offering things that are new, I do think that that's really interesting and unique. Question with option B, and this is more probably for SPRD, but do we have those outdoor courts going in at the SPRD location? Now, I'm not sure what is actually happening. Yeah, okay, that's helpful. And then my other comment was just for both option C. I think my biggest concern is the emergency vehicle access. And I think maybe echoing some of the previous comments, while I like that it's trying to get to a lot of things that Sisters values, I think that it's maybe trying to achieve too many things in that small space. And I would recommend that we focus more on maybe achieving a few things well, rather than trying to cover everything in one space. And we know we're going to have more parks in the urban growth boundary plans and things as well. So maybe I would err towards A and B personally.
I'm gonna have a rambling discourse, how's that? But up front, I agree 100% with Asa. And mine is based on not only your lovely documentation, but on historical activities here in town. And I'll preface it with my son is 35. My daughter is 30. And in 2013, we went through the original community action team, went through a process similar to this. And a longhouse, which had the kind of activities you were talking about in a inside facility, and the ice rink rose to the top all the time. They're still a high value item for the community, just in a different format and flavor. The last iteration, or the most recent, with all the pickleball courts that Spurt is putting in, address the older population needs and demands in the community. The only thing we could do to appease them is to put in a pool. The younger youth, I'm gonna say 5th grade and down, maybe 6th grade, are thrilled with the most recent addition at Village Green being the play structure. And before that, the splash pad at First Street Park. And the addition of removing the tiny kiddie structure that had been at Village Green to the campground area. Folk Festival has lots of stages implemented on their property, on city property at First Street, and when they take over Village Green, and then private entertainment centers throughout town. We are missing the entire teenage young adult market, which leads to trouble down the line. Hoodoo is a fabulous winter activity, but it's not as affordable and easily accessible for the community. And even though I might use a chair and skate, because I'm a terrible skater to begin with, I think the community has made it clear over 13 years that this is a priority. The location's not the best, but if we don't do it now, then when? Your kids will be grown, your kids will be grown. I don't know if you have kids, you know, it will miss the mark. And what I would encourage, because I know it is a high ticket item to build a pavilion and manage it and maintain it, but it can be phased in. We don't have to do all the accoutrements all at once. You know, let's do one thing that the community wants and do it right. I know there's a bond option out there, but how big is that bond going to be? There are grant options out there, but you have to work on those and chip away at them. And, you know, maybe we had bonds for public bathrooms. So maybe down the line, the bond is for the public bathrooms, although that would be a priority. But that's just an example. And for programming, someone had mentioned that back when this discussion happened, when Corey Misley was here during COVID, and the property was still in that sales talk with the Forest Service and the people that own Woodlands and Spurred, it was made fairly clear that the city wouldn't manage an ice rink and tournaments, that it would be turned over to another outside agency for handling that. Maintenance would still be on the city, from my recollection of that discussion. So I'm gonna wrap up with that because we're at 5 o'clock. And I really did not like C either, for a variety of reasons. And I agreed with you, the stage for B. Not a good use.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for the comments. Nancy, to follow up, that actually leads us right into, do we have a hard stop at 5 o'clock?
No.
Okay. So our schedule and next steps. With the public survey that went out, that added a month into our schedule. And so we're about a month behind, but we intentionally, having gone through this process on other projects, built in a little bit of a buffer on our next step, which is to gather your feedback, city council, and the community's feedback, and develop a preferred concept design alternative. When we do that, we will put together a cost estimate And we have an owners rep group, and they work a lot with school districts and big park, projects to develop bonds. And phasing and understanding, how we can actually implement a project like we're talking about. Especially, option A of a very large facility. And so once that preferred design is brought forward and the cost estimate is developed, we'll bring that back and present that to city council for their feedback, and then figure out how to actually get it done, how to phase it to make it financially feasible. And so looking forward, we should have a pretty good idea by the end of this year as to, what the design is gonna become and how it can actually get funded and built.
And I just want to say, Jennifer sitting here, we're part of this, that we finished, that we had special, at the very beginning. If you gotta ask the individual in the room, who knows? What is the capability, given budget and everything else, and the size of option A?
Yeah, that's my, I do have a concern with A in the fact that I think that it might be too big of an option for the, or, it might be too much to bite off, even if it's phase 10. I do hear what you guys are saying in regards to the attraction of more revenue generating options. The thing with option A is it's all pay to play, except for the outside playground, which is not necessarily going to help get some of those middle schoolers and everybody who are looking for stuff to do. They're looking for stuff to do that doesn't cost things, and so I think that actually has more options available. And whatever you guys end up going with, there probably needs to be a sit down with SPRD and just in regards to what would a business model plan look like for this, and how much revenue would need to be generated to be able to maintain that facility at the degree that the city wants it to be. Is that feasible? Because, I sit here and say cheaper is a pool, but I don't know how much more cheaper it is. And, I will tell you, if somebody has a community center right now that has pay to play, for dropping basketball, we don't have people busting on our doors on the basketball. And hopefully we'll change that. And it's nice to have a little bit of a mix, and I think we have a little bit of a mix. And I also hear what you're saying about the revenue generation part of it. So, as somebody who might be tagged to operate it, I can tell you right now, we would have to get more staff to be able to do that, which, knows that's really expensive to fund. And that's not even counting the maintenance component of it, that I have no idea I've never managed it. I have no idea what that would be. I think option A only has enough storage though.
And now, the only other comment I would make is that I'm not interested in any design where the bathroom's not part of the facility. I would vote no on that. I like the rest of it, but we're not gonna ask our patrons to walk across the parking lot in the middle of winter to use the that. Somebody who lives in a warm climate and has a big bladder.
Yeah.
So you go into-
Without small kids.
Oh.
State, Gary.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, so I should have mentioned, we have a presentation to city council next Wednesday as well, to gather their feedback. And then I do believe the goal is to put the design alternatives in front of you as well, probably virtually, I imagine. We haven't really defined that yet with that, but,
We could go out with a survey on that.
yeah,
It's gonna be really successful.
I agree. I think it was very successful. So that'll, city council will be next week, and the community to follow us. Thank you all very much for your comments. Really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing all your hard work.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Staff updates, sir?
Yeah, so, I'm just gonna give you some progress based on the UDBs. I'm just going to convene. I did put in front of you a preferred concept as this UDB steering committee preferred concept, and it's also funding for the concept, which they just recently met to discuss and recommended unanimously to board with the steering committee about it. So you can see in blue on the map, that's the area that part of the concept, it's like a concept, about 314 gross acres, 202 about the net developable acreage, which is in the range of what we're looking for. Primarily residential, about 50 acres of it is employment lands, and of that 50 acres, majority of it, 36 is commercial, and 14 acres is light industrial, those kinds of employment uses. And then the 19 acres of parkland is still part of the plan, and that's based on our Parks Master Plan. And then the school on site, 15 acres of that. So the next step is for the city council to review it at their September 24th meeting and see what they want to do with it. And if they recommend the boundary, some version of it, we would go quickly into an adoption phase. But just adopting the boundary is one thing we've done. This is the first phase. So we have to go through a whole language process to get it adopted. And then after that occurs, we get to what we call area planning, which starts to kind of create a little bit more of the plan for how it should go about, just where there's different land usage would actually exist on the map. And that kind of provides the blueprint for future development that they would use that area plan to help provide the master plan. And would be expected to conform with that plan when we give them for annexation. Any questions on that?
But if everything went smoothly, which who knows, but how far do you think how long would it be before we got to this phase with the park and the urban growth boundary? Like how many years?
Oh, for the 19 acres of.
Yeah, for the
park
19
and
acres
the
of park,
UGB.
like how far away is that, just from my understanding?
How far?
Not in your life.
Like, is that,
Is that what you're-
yeah, like, would it be like 5 years from now we'd be having these kinds of conversations, or 10 years?
How many lawsuits?
It's, we're gonna, obviously, no, there's gonna propose annexation law, there's market for this.
I see.
We have some, we've heard some interest from some developers who would like to go forward, but, it's speculation at this point.
I see.
So best case scenario could be, 2 to 3 years, maybe, best case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously a 20-year plan for growth.
Yeah.
Growth doesn't wait till the end of that 20 years to develop it.
Mhm.
There are definitely it factors in fluctuations in the economy in those 20 years. So
Yeah.
that's not a very good answer, but it's I can't really know the pinpoint.
Oh, great. I'm just curious if we have to kind of,
This is being
bump
reported.
something.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you just confirm that you said that there's 19 acres of parkland in this concept, but 15 are earmarked for a school site?
15 acres will be in addition.
In addition to, oh, okay, thank you.
So part of this plan, part of this process may necessitate an update to our Parks Master Plan, because we knew we needed that many acres of parkland, but we didn't know where they were. So that's the same story for our transportation plan, for water and wastewater plans, which will have to be updated accordingly. But yeah, we're making progress.
that's great.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
And we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I have.
Thanks, Scott.
So tentatively, we'll have a meeting on October 1st. In fact, I'm going to suggest that we have potentially a request for such as parks and for your pretty key.
Great.
So I'll let
I
you-
already support that.
I'll let you know as soon as I can. So.
No, thank you very much. I don't have anything. Do you have some?
Does Jennifer have?
Oh, yeah, we're bidding there.
Do I need to hold it?
Like that?
Or?
Okay. Hey,
Hi.
so just so you guys know, if you haven't noticed, every day you look at the park, it looks different. So that's exciting. We are on track for completion. Substantial completion should happen mid-October. We should be laying down the paint on the pickleball courts here. I thought it was today, but clearly not. So, within the next week, it's very weather dependent. And so, our contractors are working on that and we're very excited kind of where we are. We haven't had too many hiccups. We've had we did crush the school district's fiber optic line. So luckily we've been working with the school district on that and they've been very kind and generous with not hating us too much. Luckily they have redundancy in the system. So way to go, Ryan. So that is exciting with that park. And then we are going into event season. And so if you didn't know, SPRD does the Glory Days Car Show, which is September 13th. And then we have Trunk or Treat, which is on Halloween. And then we have the Holiday Palooza, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So all those are made possible by a lot of city staff too. So thank you for city staff for helping out and getting all the lovely gear and everything out in place that we need. So we're excited to get the event season off and running. And other than that, we have our youth athletics kicking off this week. We were hopeful to be able to start athletics at this park, but clearly that's not the case. So next year will be our year to have soccer at our new park. And we're just, taking it day by day and really excited for that park to be completed and move on to the next best thing. Any questions? Cool.
Thank you.
Are the pickleball people happy?
Yeah.
No
Yet to
paint
be
yet.
determined.
They are right.
Thanks, Jen. Gary, you have anything?
No comment.
Great. Other board business, anyone have anything to bring up? No. Great. I guess we can close this meeting at 5:10. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to school board. That's fine. Yeah. You don't want to go? Good,
I've given my time today.